okay, we're going to, in 15 minutes, tell us about your tribal history. And so we do our best to fit in a little bit of time frame. And so then they say, when can we come back and be a part of the actual class? And they said, well, you can't because you're not a certified teacher. And you can't because we have our whole year's curriculum developed already and you're not in it. And so then they continue on with the dropout rate, the low success education. And then they ask again, well, what else are we doing wrong? Well, you're not including the actual people in the teaching of our culture. And so they say, you come in and talk to our teachers. And what we would like you to do is tell your children to get an education just like ours and come and teach back at the school something that has always failed. Same way. Teach the same class, read the same book. I had in that school the same book that my mother had when she was in school. The same book. Her name was in the book signed with a pencil. I got the same book. So what I would say, if you're really, really sincere about doing something, I don't know more if you want to call that, if you use that. If you're really sincere, you want to make a difference, our late uncle said, don't tell me what you want. Show me what you've done. If you want an education to do something different, then don't do it the same way they're doing it. That has failed since 1963. If you want a success rate, then you find out how to get a degree to teach the children our history. And we don't need anyone else telling our history when we have people that are very capable of telling who we are. But they don't let them come into the class because they're not certified. So if you really want to make a difference with the sovereignty and the culture and the education, then get a degree that says, I am an expert and certified, I am very knowledgeable in my own history and I'll teach it as I see fit, not what's good enough for you, in a system that has failed since 1963. That's what I would say.
Hello. I'll pretend I'm in a longhouse and I'll talk really loud. In 1974, the tribes in the United States declared their sovereignty in a resolution adopted by people at an NCAI convention in San Diego. And there were 3,000 delegates at that meeting. When people were asked afterwards what that meant, they said, it means we decide. Sovereignty, as everyone knows, is a French word. We decide is an English expression, but it's got an expression that is understandable in every language. At the Center for World Indigenous Studies, where we have examined these questions for quite a number of years now, there's always one question that keeps coming back. When everyone now proclaims their sovereignty, as virtually every member of the panel here has described the sovereign nature of their people, what is it that they do to ensure that that sovereignty actually means something? Now, when Alan was saying that it was about doing sovereignty, actually implementing it, he was referring to Joe Delacruz, who was president of the Quinault Indian Nation, who said that many, many times, that it is meaningless unless you do it. When the Treaty of Waitangi was negotiated and agreed to, were there parts in that treaty that allowed for both the parties who were presumably agreeing to something? Was there anything in that treaty that said, this will be enforced by the following actions. And if not, what should be the enforcement mechanisms in such agreements? If you would, anybody at the panel? Go for it.
Kia ora, Paparuri, thank you for that question. That is in fact one of the very questions that my students discuss in class, is that when it was clear that the Treaty of Waitangi wasn't being followed by a particular party to that treaty, what is it that should have happened? Now, as some of our students have discussed, as we've seen it, is that in particular one of the really interesting things that have happened in New Zealand is that the entity that we refer to as the British Crown is not in fact the British Crown. We had a strange situation, which is still actually hotly debated amongst our people, where the responsibilities of this entire treaty were put onto the settler parliament or the coloniser parliament that established. I, as a Māori, am actually not sure when that happened. We know when it happened from the Māori perspective, and that is that in 1892 and 84, sorry, our people travelled to England to see what was then the Queen of England, to say to her, excuse me, if you haven't been paying attention, the people that are now living in our country who you said you would govern are not being governed. They are not following the agreement as we had, arranged it, which was that Māori law and Māori sovereignty is what would be, ultimate in our country, and that you can have kawanatanga within that. Two different delegations had gone, 82 and 84. Neither of them managed to see her, and that's when we were informed that they may have made the decision sometime before then, but that's when Māori were informed that actually anything to do now to do with the treaty is with that very parliament. That partly why the treaty was signed was because those people had been causing problems. So that's one thing in terms of that. There's still a question as who is it that we negotiate with there, with regards to something being in the treaty as to what happens if it goes wrong. No. But at the time, because there were only 2,000 British settlers, I do not believe that it was ever envisaged that such a tumultuous change could happen. And Moana Jackson, one of our political educators, says at the time of the signing of the treaty, the number of Pākehā, or white people that lived in his region, was 6. And so in terms of, our people, I understand it was just always assumed that we would have the ability to ensure that the treaty was followed, and also that, our tikanga, as Leonie was saying, is that your word is your bond. And so I don't think from